At the holiday table, my sister announced, "You're just the ATM," and everyone laughed. My parents nodded in agreement. "All he's good for is the money," my father added. Then I stood up and took out my phone. The room went silent. My name is Daniel. I'm 36 years old, and at our family Christmas dinner, my family publicly reduced me to nothing but a walking bank account in front of everyone. But before I tell you how I froze every account with my name on it and changed my family's lives forever, let me know where you're watching from in the comments below. It's strange how certain moments become permanently etched in your memory. Not the entire event, just fragments. The sharp clink of silverware against china. The sickeningly sweet smell of apple pie. The particular tone of laughter that isn't about joy, but about ridicule. Before we jump back in, tell us where you're tuning in from, and if this story touches you, make sure you're subscribed, because tomorrow I've saved something extra special for you. For me, the image burned into my mind is the circle of faces around our holiday table. All turned toward me, all wearing identical expressions, a blend of entitlement, amusement, and callous disregard. They were watching a man being reduced to his financial utility, and apparently it was the highlight of their Christmas evening. My sister Rebecca stood beside the beautifully decorated tree, a glass of expensive wine in her hand, wine I had brought as a gift. Her designer outfit fit her perfectly. She had the smug, entitled smile of a woman who'd never worried about a bill in her adult life, the golden child. She had just delivered the line that shattered the veneer of family harmony, the one that finally made me see what I'd been denying for years. "Let's be honest about Daniel," she'd said, her voice dripping with mock affection. "He's just the family ATM, always good for a withdrawal when we need it." The laughter that followed hit me like a physical blow. It was sharp and immediate, and it came from everyone at the table. And then my father's voice, loud and clear from the head of the table, adding the finishing touch. "All he's good for is the money. At least he's reliable for something." More laughter, crueler this time. I felt my girlfriend Olivia stiffen. Beside me, her hand, which had been resting casually on my knee just moments before, now squeezed it in silent support. I stared down at the holiday tablecloth, my vision blurring. The pattern of reindeer and snowflakes suddenly seemed incredibly fascinating. Anything to avoid looking up. Anything to avoid seeing their faces. My own family. My first thought was simple. Get Olivia out of here. I was already starting to push my chair back. A quiet retreat was my only goal. Would not give them the satisfaction of a scene. I would not let Olivia see how deeply they had hurt me. I would just disappear. But as I moved, my fingers brushed against the phone in my pocket. Something inside me shifted. A lifetime of quiet acquiescence, of writing checks and transferring funds, of being the responsible one they could always count on for money, but never respect. It all crystallized into a single moment of clarity. Every head in the room, including mine, snapped to attention as I pulled out my phone. The banking app was already on my home screen, of course it was. How many times had I opened it at this very table in response to a sob story or an emergency? Too many to count. My hands were steady as I logged in. The room had fallen silent. It's not a polite silence, but a sudden, heavy, dead quiet. The kind of silence where you can hear the grandfather clock ticking from the next room. The air crackled with tension. And then I spoke. Just 3 words, but they landed like thunder in the stillness. Enough is enough. Before those 3 words hung in the air, there were years of quiet financial abuse that led up to it. Years of me trying to be the good son, the supportive brother, the responsible one. And them. Well, them being them. My life wasn't a story of financial hardship. It was quite the opposite. Life of hard work and smart investing that had paid off, even if it had come at a price. When I graduated from business school 12 years ago, I was lucky enough to land a job at a promising tech startup. While my peers chased jobs at big-name firms with flashy salaries, I took a risk on a small company with a vision I believed in. The salary was modest, but the equity was generous. It was a gamble that my family never understood or respected. "He's working for pocket change," my sister would sneer at family gatherings. "I'm over here making 6 figures right out of the gate." She had followed our father's footsteps into corporate law, a path I was expected to take but had rejected. For the first few years, they were right to be skeptical. I lived in a tiny studio apartment, drove a used car, and rarely took vacations. But I believed in what we were building. I put in 14-hour days, sacrificed weekends, and poured my heart and soul into the company. Then, for years everything changed. Our startup was acquired by a tech giant for a sum that made national business news. My equity, once worth only paper promises, was suddenly worth millions. Not never work again money, but enough to change my life in profound ways. I remember staring at the number in my bank account after the acquisition closed. It didn't seem real. That night, I called my parents to share the news. Their reaction was immediate, not pride or congratulations, but a sudden keen interest. In my financial status they'd never shown before. "Well, now you can help your sister with her student loans," my mother said, barely acknowledging my achievement. "She's been struggling, you know." I was taken aback but agreed to think about it. That was the beginning. A week later, my father called about investing in a new venture. The month after that, my younger brother needed help with a down payment on a house. It started as requests, became expectations, and eventually transformed into demands. Preparing and narrating this story took us a lot of time, so if you are enjoying it, subscribe to our channel. It means a lot to us. Now back to the story. At first, I didn't mind. I loved my family and wanted to help, and my sister Rebecca needed $50,000 to clear her student debt. I wrote the check without hesitation. When my brother Mark wanted $75,000 for a house down payment, I transferred the funds immediately. When my parents' roof needed replacing, another $30,000. When Rebecca's car broke down, $45,000 for a brand new luxury model. I remember one morning about 3 months ago. I was sitting in my office, no longer at the startup. I now ran my own investment consulting firm. The sun was streaming through the floor-to-ceiling windows, illuminating the city skyline. Oh, my assistant. Jen walked in with a concerned look on her face. "Your sister's on line 1, she said, her expression carefully neutral. "Says it's urgent." It was always urgent with Rebecca. I sighed and picked up the phone. "Becca, what's up?" "Danny, thank God," she said, her voice breathless with manufactured panic. "I'm in a real bind. The European vacation I booked? Price just doubled because I waited too long, and now I need another $15,000 or I'll lose my deposit." I rubbed my forehead, feeling the beginnings of a familiar headache. "Becca, that's not an emergency. That's poor planning." "You serious right now?" Her tone shifted from panic to indignation in an instant. "After everything this family has done for you? Mom and Dad supported you when you took that ridiculous job at that no-name company. I've always been there for you." The irony was almost laughable. My parents had practically disowned me when I declined the position at my father's law firm. They'd called me ungrateful, short-sighted, a disappointment. They only supported me when my bank account swelled. "I'll think about it," I said finally, knowing full well that I would end up transferring the money. And I did. Later that same day. The pattern had been set. It was the responsible one, the successful one, not because they were proud of me, but because I was useful to them. I remember walking through my apartment that evening, a spacious downtown loft with views of the park. It was beautifully decorated. Olivia had an eye for design, but somehow it felt empty. I found her on the balcony, nursing a glass of wine, staring at the sunset. "Another withdrawal from the Bank of Daniel?" she asked without turning around. We'd been dating for a year, and she'd seen enough of these interactions to know the signs. "How'd you guess?" I joined her at the railing. "Your face gets this look," she said, finally turning to me. "Like you're both angry and sad at the same time." She was right. That's exactly how I felt, angry at being used, sad that I allowed it. "Do you know how much I've given them in the last 3 years?" I asked her. She shook her head. "Almost $500,000. Saying it out loud made my stomach twist. "It's not loaned." Given Olivia's eyes widened. "Daniel, that's insane." "Yeah, I know." I took a long sip of her wine. "And do you know how many times they've invited me to family events just to spend time with me, not because they needed something?" "I'm guessing not many." 0. I said flatly. Not once. She placed her hand over mine on the railing. Why do you keep doing it? It was a question I'd been avoiding for years. Because they're family? I said automatically. But even as the words left my mouth, I knew they weren't enough anymore. That night, I couldn't sleep. I kept thinking about Olivia's question. Why did I keep doing it? Was it guilt? A desire for approval? Or just habit? By morning, I had made a decision. I wouldn't cut them off completely. They were still my family. But I would set boundaries. No more blank checks. No more emergency bailouts without discussions and conditions. It lasted exactly 17 days. My brother called about an investment opportunity that couldn't wait. My mother needed a new car because hers was unsafe, though only 3 years old. My father had unexpected medical bills for cosmetic. Dentistry, as it turned out. Each time I tried to stand firm. Each time I crumbled under the weight of guilt trips. Emotional manipulation and the insidious thought. But they're family. The final straw came at Christmas. I had been looking forward to introducing Olivia to my entire extended family. We'd been discussing moving in together, possibly even marriage. I wanted her to feel welcomed and loved by the people who had raised me. I should have known better. The day started pleasantly enough. I arrived at my parents' suburban mansion purchased with significant help from me bearing gifts. Expensive gifts. I'd spent weeks selecting them a limited edition watch. For my father, a designer handbag for my mother, spa vacation package for Rebecca, and premium sports tickets for my brother. Olivia had baked her famous peppermint brownies and was nervous about making a good impression. They're going to love you, I assured her, as we walked up the snow-dusted path to the front door. How could they not? The first few hours were civil. My parents made the appropriate noises of welcome to Olivia. My siblings introduced their spouses and children, and we exchanged pleasantries over appetizers. But I noticed something odd. Every time I tried to talk about Olivia, her work as an architectural designer, her volunteer efforts, anything, someone would redirect the conversation to money. So Daniel, how's the market treating you these days? My uncle would ask. That new tech IPO must have been good to your portfolio, huh? From a cousin. Are you still doing that consulting thing? Or have you found a real job yet? From my father. It was as if they couldn't see me as a person, only as a financial resource. And they certainly couldn't see Olivia as anything but an accessory too. Their ATM dinner was served, and we gathered around the massive dining table. Crystal glasses, fine china, silver candlesticks, all gifts from me over the years adorned the surface. The meal was lavish catered, of course. Heaven forbid my mother should cook for a holiday. The conversation flowed, mostly about my siblings' accomplishments. Rebecca's recent promotion. Mark's new boat. My parents' upcoming cruise. Not once. Did anyone ask me about my life? My work? My hopes? Not a single question directed at Olivia beyond more wine. Then came the gift exchange. I watched as my carefully selected presents were opened with cursory thanks before being set aside. In return, I received a department store sweater from my parents still in the gift bag with the receipt showing. Gift card from my brother, and nothing at all from Rebecca, who claimed, "Oh, yours is still being shipped." That everything fell apart. My father cleared his throat and tapped his glass with a spoon. "We have an announcement," he said, looking around the table with a smile. "Your mother and I have decided to renovate the lake house next spring." The lake house. Another property I had substantially financed but was made to feel like a guest. And whenever I visited, it's going to be extensive, my mother added. New dock, expanded deck, maybe even a pool. I knew what was coming next. I could feel it in the pit of my stomach. "We're hoping," my father continued, looking directly at me, "that everyone will contribute to make this a true family project, especially those of us who have been fortunate in our careers." The silence that followed was pointed. Everyone turned to look at me, expectant, entitled. I felt Olivia's hand on my knee again, this time in warning. She could sense my rising anger. "How much are you expecting this time?" I asked quietly. My father had the audacity to look offended. "Now, Daniel, that's not the Christmas spirit. We're talking about a family legacy here." "Family legacy," I repeated slowly. "Interesting. And how much of this family legacy will actually belong to me? Will my name be on the deed? Will I have any say in its use? Rebecca scoffed. Why? Are you being so difficult? It's not like you don't have the money. And that's when she said it. The words that would change everything. You're just the ATM, Danny. That's your role in this family. Be grateful we include you at all. Table erupted in laughter. Even my young nieces and nephews giggled, though they couldn't possibly understand the cruelty behind the joke. All he's good for is the money, my father added, raising his glass in a mock toast. At least he's reliable for something. Laughter, sharper, louder. I looked around the table at their faces, my family. These people who shared my blood but who had never, not once, seen past my bank account to the person I was. Something inside me broke. Or maybe it was something finally coming together. A clarity I'd been missing for years. I reached for my phone. Enough is enough, I said. The laughter died immediately. They knew that tone. It was the tone I used. In business, the tone that had helped me build a fortune they so eagerly fed from. Daniel, it was just a joke, my mother began, her voice nervous. Don't be so sensitive. I didn't respond. I was too busy logging into my banking app. With a few quick taps, I froze the joint account I maintained with my parents, the one they dipped into regularly for emergencies. Next, I pulled up the document app where I kept the paperwork for all the loans I'd made, loans that had never been formally structured, never been repaid, but which I had meticulously documented. What are you doing? Rebecca demanded, the smirk gone from her face. I looked up, my expression calm. I'm accepting my role as the family ATM, I said evenly. But you see, even ATMs have daily limits. And it seems we've reached ours. What is that supposed to mean? My father asked, his face reddening. It means, I continued, still tapping on my phone, that this ATM is officially out of service. I've just frozen every account that has my name on it that any of you have access to. The lake house renovation, you'll need to find another source of funding. The silence that followed was absolute. Even the children sensed something monumental was happening and stayed quiet. Can't do that, Rebecca finally spluttered. The lake house trip we planned for New Year's, we need access to my money. I finished for her. Yes, I imagine you do. Just as you needed it for your student loans, your car, your vacation, and countless other expenses over the years. But here's the thing about ATMs, Becca. They don't belong to the customer. They belong to the bank. I stood up, my chair scraping loudly against the hardwood floor. Olivia rose with me, her face a mixture of concern and was that pride. Merry Christmas, everyone, I said, picking up my coat. Consider this my gift to myself this year. Long overdue, I'd say. My mother was the first to recover. Daniel, stop being ridiculous. Sit down and let's discuss this like adults. I paused, one arm in my coat sleeve. That's exactly what I'm doing, Mom. Acting like an adult. Something I should have done years ago. After everything we've done for you, my father began, his voice trembling with rage. This is how you repay us. I had to laugh at that. Repay you? Dad, I've been repaying you my entire adult life. For what, exactly? For being disappointed in my career choice? For only acknowledging my existence when your bank account is low? For treating the woman I love like she's invisible? Olivia's hand slipped into mine, squeezing gently. You ungrateful, my father started, but I cut him off. No, Dad, I've been plenty grateful. Too grateful. That ends tonight. I turned to leave but stopped at the doorway. And just so we're clear, the family legacy lake house? Check the deed. My name is the only one on it. I bought it outright. 3 years ago, when you were facing foreclosure, you're welcome to continue using it under certain conditions that my lawyer will be in touch about. The looks on their faces, shock, disbelief, anger should have given me satisfaction. Instead, I just felt a profound sadness. Not for the money I could afford it, but for the years spent trying to buy the love and respect that should have been freely given. As Olivia and I walked to the car, the cold winter air felt cleansing somehow, purifying. Are you okay? She asked softly as we drove away from the house, the sounds of my family's angry voices still echoing in my ears. I thought about it for a moment. Was I okay? I had just cut off my entire family financially. I had exposed years of manipulation and emotional abuse. I had potentially burned bridges that could never be rebuilt. I said honestly, I'm not okay, but I think I will be. And for the first time in years, I believed it. The drive back to my apartment that night was surreal. The city streets were alive with holiday lights, twinkling stars, and glowing snowflakes strung across lampposts. Storefronts decked in festive displays, families strolling together with shopping bags and laughter. Everything looked exactly the same as it had hours earlier, yet everything had changed. Beside me, Olivia was quiet, respecting my need to process what had just happened. Snow began to fall softly, each flake catching the streetlights before disappearing against the windshield. Here's the script cleaned up for CapCut TTS. I found myself focusing on the rhythm of the wipers back and forth. Back and forth, a hypnotic motion that somehow calmed the storm inside me. Your hands are shaking. I looked down. She was right. My knuckles were white against the steering wheel, my fingers trembling slightly. I hadn't even noticed. I just cut off my entire family on Christmas. She reached over and covered my hand with hers. You didn't cut them off, Daniel. You set boundaries. There's a difference. The light turned green and I guided the car forward. Try telling them that. I don't have to. They'll figure it out, or they won't. Either way, you did what you needed to do. We drove in silence for a few more blocks. The falling snow was getting heavier, transforming the city into a quiet wonderland. It made everything seem softer, more forgiving. Do you think I went too far? With the lake house revelation, I mean? Olivia considered this before answering. No. They needed to understand what they've been taking for granted. Sometimes people don't see clearly until they're shocked into it. We pulled into the underground parking of my building. The engine died. We sat in the dim light, neither of us moving to get out. What happens now? Now, you reclaim your life. You decide what kind of relationship you want with your family. If any based on respect, not financial dependence. She made it sound so simple, but years of conditioning wouldn't disappear overnight. The guilt was already gnawing at me, whispering that I was the villain in this story, not the victim. Upstairs, my apartment felt different somehow. I'd always taken pride in my home, the spacious rooms, the carefully chosen furniture, the art I'd collected over the years. It was a testament to my success, yes, but also to my taste, my personality, my life beyond the numbers in my bank account. Tonight, though, I saw it with new eyes. How much of this had I created to prove something, to show my family I was worthy, to compensate for the approval I never received? I wandered through the rooms while Olivia made us tea, running my fingers along bookshelves, studying photographs, examining the artifacts of my life as if they belonged to a stranger. In my home office, I sat down at my desk and opened the bottom drawer. Inside was a folder labeled Family Finances. I pulled it out, feeling its substantial weight. 6 years of loans, gifts, and contributions meticulously documented. Nearly $800,000 in total. Money that had disappeared into my family's lifestyle without a word of genuine gratitude or any intention of repayment. What are you going to do with that? I stared at the folder for a long moment. I don't know yet. She set a mug in front of me and perched on the edge of the desk. Whatever you decide, I support you. But remember, this isn't just about money. It never was. That's what they never understood. That night, sleep eluded me. I lay awake, replaying the dinner scene over and over in my mind. Hearing Rebecca's voice here, just the ATM, and seeing the laughter on their faces. Each time, the hurt cut just as deep. Around 3 a.m., I gave up and slipped out of bed, careful not to wake Olivia. I padded to the living room and stood at the floor-to-ceiling windows, looking out at the snow-covered city. The world was quiet, peaceful. In the distance, the lights of downtown still sparkled, but they seemed subdued under the blanket of white. I pressed my forehead against the cool glass and closed my eyes. When had it all started? When had I become The family bank instead of the family member? Was it the moment my startup was acquired, or had the groundwork been laid long before that? As I remembered my childhood, comfortable but not lavish. My parents were successful professionals who valued appearances above all else. The right schools, the right neighborhood, the right connections. We weren't wealthy by any means, but we lived as if we were, often stretching beyond our means to maintain the facade. My father's law practice had periods of feast and famine. During the lean times, bills went unpaid, vacations were canceled, and tension filled our home. During the good times, money flowed freely, often on status symbols rather than necessities. I grew up watching this financial roller coaster, absorbing the stress it created, vowing to be different. I became obsessed with financial security. While other teenagers spent their allowances on video games or clothes, I opened a savings account. I worked part-time jobs throughout high school and college, squirreling away every penny I could. My parents saw this as a quirk, sometimes teasing me about being a miser. They didn't understand that I was responding to the chaos they had created, that I was seeking the stability they had never provided. When I turned down the position at my father's firm to join the startup, it wasn't just about following my passion. It was about charting my own course, free from their financial unpredictability. The irony was bitter. I had escaped one financial trap only to create another. Instead of being controlled by their money problems, I became the solution to them. The reliable safety net. The never-ending resource. The ATM. My phone buzzed on the coffee table, pulling me from my thoughts. At this hour, I picked it up, expecting a work emergency or perhaps a wrong number. It was a text from Rebecca. "Hope you're proud of yourself. Mom is crying. Dad is talking about disowning you. Way to ruin Christmas, ATM." The nickname stung even. More now, I set the phone down without responding and returned to the window. The snow continued to fall, each flake a silent witness to the turmoil inside me. By morning, my phone had accumulated 17 missed calls and 32 text messages. I scrolled through them during my first cup of coffee, Olivia, watching me with concern. From my mother, "Daniel, call me immediately. We need to discuss your behavior." From my father, "You've gone too far this time. This family is always supported you." From my brother, Mark, "Dude, what the hell? I had plans for that lake house." My kids were looking forward to it. From various aunts, uncles, and cousins. Variations of shock, disappointment, and demands to reconsider. Not a single message acknowledged how they had hurt me. Not one recognized the years of financial exploitation. In their narrative, I was the villain, the ungrateful son, who had suddenly and inexplicably cut them off. "Are you going to respond?" I set the phone down. "Not yet. I need to think clearly first." She nodded, understanding as always. "I need to go check on my apartment and get some fresh clothes. Will you be okay alone for a bit?" After she left, I found myself drawn back to my office and that folder of financial records. I opened it again, this time with a different perspective. These weren't just numbers on a page. They were evidence of a deeply dysfunctional relationship. A relationship where love was measured in dollar signs and family loyalty was a one-way street. I needed professional help to navigate this. It's not just financial advice, but emotional guidance as well. I made 2 calls that morning. The first was to my lawyer, Sophia Chen, a sharp-minded woman who had helped me structure my business deals for years. The second was to Dr. Marcus Reed, a therapist recommended by a close friend months ago when I had first started questioning my family dynamics. Sophia was direct and practical. From what you're describing, these were gifts, not loans. Without proper documentation stating otherwise, you'd have a hard time recouping any of it legally. But we can certainly protect you going forward. We scheduled a meeting for the following day to review my financial entanglements with my family and create a strategy for disentanglement. Dr. Reed was equally direct, but in a different way. "What you're describing sounds like financial abuse, Daniel. It's a form of control and manipulation that's often overlooked because money is such a taboo subject in our society." I winced at the word abuse. It seemed too harsh, too definitive. They're not bad people. I'm not saying they are. Family dynamics are complex, but their behavior has clearly been harmful to you. Acknowledging that is the first step toward healing. We set up a weekly appointment. It felt both terrifying and liberating to commit to this process of examination and recovery. By the time Olivia returned that afternoon, I had a plan, or at least the beginnings of one. I was still shaky, still raw, but no longer adrift. I've been thinking about what you said last night, about reclaiming my life. She took my hand, waiting for me to continue. I don't want to cut them out completely. They're still my family. But I can't go back to the way things were either. That's fair. What are you thinking? Boundaries. Clear, firm boundaries, financial and emotional. She smiled. A small, proud smile that warmed me more than the fire. That sounds healthy. And challenging. Very challenging. I've never said no to them before. Not really. Not without eventually giving in. You won't be doing it alone, she assured me, squeezing my hand. The next day, December 27th, I met with Sophia in her downtown office. The holiday decorations were still up, a strange backdrop for such a serious conversation. Let's start with the lake house, she said, opening a sleek leather portfolio. You say you're the sole owner? I nodded, pulling out the deed. I bought it outright when the bank was about to foreclose on it 3 years ago. My parents had taken out a second mortgage they couldn't afford. Rather than tell them I was purchasing it, I let them believe I was just helping with the payments. Sophia examined the document, her expression unreadable. And they've been using it as their vacation home since then? With no rental agreement or formal arrangement? Yes, I confirmed, the absurdity of it hitting me anew. They have keys, they invite guests, they treat it as their property in every way. She made a note, the joint bank account. Opened 5 years ago for family emergencies. I'm the only one who deposits money into it. They're the only ones who withdraw it. Another note, credit cards to authorize users on my business card, my father and Rebecca, originally for specific purchases they were making on my behalf, but it evolved. By the end of our 2-hour meeting, we had a comprehensive list of all the financial ties binding me to my family. It was longer than I had realized. Joint accounts, shared credit cards, automatic transfers, informal loans, regular gifts, and even several insurance policies where I was paying the premiums. Sophia sat back, surveying the list. This is going to take some time to untangle properly, but we can start with the highest priorities. We crafted a plan. First, formal letters to my family members outlining the changes to come. Second, a series of legal documents to protect my assets moving forward. Third, a structured timeline for ending the financial support without causing immediate hardship. This won't be easy, Sophia warned me as our meeting concluded. They won't like losing access to your resources. Expect resistance. Possibly even legal challenges, though they'd be on shaky ground. I left her office feeling lighter than I had in days. There was a path forward. Wouldn't be simple or painless, but it existed. That evening I received an unexpected visitor. My brother Mark stood at my door, his expression a mixture of anger and uncertainty. Can I come in? He asked stiffly. I hesitated, then stepped aside. Mark had always been the least demanding of my siblings. 2 years younger than me, he had followed a more conventional path: college, corporate job, marriage, kids. He'd taken from me over the years, but less aggressively than Rebecca or my parents. He paced my living room, running a hand through his hair, a nervous habit from childhood. Everyone's freaking out, he finally said. Mom's convinced you're having some kind of breakdown. Dad's talking to his lawyer friends. I'm not surprised, I replied, keeping my voice neutral. Change is hard. He stopped pacing and faced me. What exactly are you doing, Daniel? Is this some kind of power play? Because if you're trying to teach them a lesson, it's not a power play, I interrupted. It's a boundary. There's a difference. A boundary, he repeated, as if tasting the word. So what does that mean exactly? You're cutting us all off? After everything I held up a hand. After everything you've what, Mark? Taken? Expected? I demanded. He had the grace to look uncomfortable. That's not fair. We're family. Yes, we are, I agreed, which is why I've given and given for years without complaint. But family goes both ways, Mark. When was the last time any of you asked about my life without it being a prelude to asking for money? He opened his mouth and closed it again. The silence was damning. I'm not cutting anyone off, I continued. Softer now. I'm restructuring our relationship. My lawyer will be sending documents outlining the changes. They're fair, Mark. More than fair. He sank onto my couch, suddenly looking exhausted. Rebecca's wedding is in 4 months, he said quietly. She's counting on you to pay for half of it? Of course she was. My sister's elaborate destination wedding had been in planning for nearly a year. The budget had grown increasingly extravagant with each passing month. And naturally, I was expected to foot a significant portion of the bill. The funds I've already committed to her wedding will still be available, I said carefully. But there won't be any additional contributions beyond what was already agreed upon. Relief flickered across his face, followed quickly by confusion. Then what's changing? If you're still helping with things like that. What's changing is the expectation, I explained. Going forward, any financial support will be my choice, not my obligation. It will come with clear terms and conditions. Mark nodded slowly, processing this, in the lake house. Is legally mine? I said firmly. But you and your family are welcome to use it this New Year's as planned. After that, we'll need to discuss a formal arrangement. He stared at me for a long moment. You've changed, he finally said. I considered this. Had I changed? Or had I simply stopped accepting the unacceptable? I've grown, I corrected gently. And it's time our family relationship grew too. After Mark left, I felt a curious mixture of exhaustion and exhilaration. It had been a difficult conversation, but also a necessary one. For perhaps the first time, my brother had seen me as more than a financial resource. He had been forced to engage with me as a person with needs and boundaries of my own. It was a small step, but it was a beginning. That night, as Olivia and I prepared dinner together in my kitchen, I found myself smiling for the first time since Christmas. Good day? She asked, noticing the change in my mood. Challenging day, I corrected, chopping vegetables with newfound energy. But productive. I met with my lawyer. I had an actual conversation with Mark. I didn't cave when faced with guilt trips about Rebecca's wedding. Olivia raised her eyebrows, impressed. That's huge progress. It is, I agreed. And the strangest part, I feel guilty and liberated. At the same time, is that normal? She stirred the pasta sauce, considering the question. I think it's perfectly normal when you're breaking unhealthy patterns. The guilt comes from the conditioning that made you believe your worth was tied to what you could provide. The liberation comes from finally recognizing that it isn't. I stopped chopping and looked at her. He looked at her. This intelligent, insightful woman who saw me so clearly and loved me anyway, who had stood by my side during the most difficult confrontation of my life, who understood the complexity of what I was feeling without judgment. I love you, I said simply. She smiled, that warm, genuine smile that had first captured my heart. I love you too. Now finish those vegetables before they wilt from neglect. As we ate dinner, I realized something profound. For years, I had been pouring resources into relationships that drained me, that left me feeling empty and used. Yet here, in this simple moment of domestic harmony, I felt truly rich. Rich in ways that had nothing to do with my bank account. Perhaps that was the greatest irony of all. My family had reduced me to an ATM, never seeing that the true wealth had nothing to do with money at all. It was in connections built on mutual respect and genuine care. It was in the quiet moments of understanding. It was in having the courage to stand up for your own worth, even when those who should value you the most tried to diminish it. I had frozen every account with my name on it. But in doing so, I had unfrozen something far more valuable, my sense of self-worth, my capacity for authentic connection, my ability to give from a place of choice rather than obligation. The road ahead would be challenging. There would be more difficult conversations, more guilt to work through, more boundaries to maintain. But for the first time in years, I was walking that road as myself, not as an ATM, not as a financier of others' dreams, but as Daniel. It's Daniel. And that, I was beginning to realize, was more than enough. And up next, you've got 2 more standout stories right on your screen. If this one hit the mark, you won't want to pass these up. Just click and check them out. And don't forget to subscribe and turn on the notification bell so you don't miss any upload from us.